Hi everyone, I'm Fiona, and today I am a Nordic fairy, hence I have no wings. And just in case you're wondering why that is, even Freya herself was actually one of the Vanir, and they were the type of fairy, and they're very, very powerful, and they don't have wings. So I don't have any wings today, but I do have a cake, and if you don't mind, it's so warm in here. That's as far as it goes. There's nothing else comes off. Okay.
Is that one of those kind of festivals? And I'm leaving.
No, it's not that kind.
That's over in St. Pete.
Oh.
You might make more money that way.
I was actually thrilled when Pearl invited me to come and speak about the runes. And whenever I speak about the runes, I actually find myself defending them. And I've often wondered why that is. And the other night I was sitting there and I realised something that I think is probably quite pertinent to it. When I was younger, the way that I actually found the runes myself was I saw a television programme where somebody passed a piece of paper with just some squiggles on, and somehow an amazing thing happened. Now I don't remember if it was a curse or if it was something that was good. All I remember is it was something powerful. And I was there about 10 years old thinking, hey, give me some of that, you know? So I waited and I got my pocket money each week, and I went to the bookshop with my cousin and I saw the thing on the runes. So I bought this box set with a book, a little set of runes, and I took it home, and there I am in my bedroom trying to conjure up this power where I'm going to suddenly be someone important and people take notice of me, and nothing happened. Nothing. I was very disappointed. I hid them under the bed so that my mother wouldn't see, and I thought that was the end of it. Lo and behold, a few days later when I went home from school, my mother had found them, and I was in a lot of trouble. My mother was a Catholic, and obviously the runes, she was horrified. And I tried to defend myself, but I didn't know anything about it. To be honest, I had no history to present to her, nothing to say, this is good, nothing. So over the years, obviously, I learned a bit more. But the other day, when I remembered this, what I actually found in my box, this is my box from when I was a child, all little trinkets and bits and bobs, key rings and all sorts, is this. The only one rune left, because my mother, because I was heartbroken that she was going to throw them out, she told me I could pick one. And she allowed me to pick one, but she wanted to check it first. I picked this one, and she said I could keep it. She actually told me years later the reason that she let me keep this one is because it has a fish on it. Fish. Except that's not what it actually means. What this rune is actually a legacy. The inheritance. And that is why the runes stayed with me through the years, and I learned more about them. I really learned about them. I learned the truth about the runes. And there is more than meets the eye. So, when my mother then finds out what I've been looking at, you can imagine how horrified she was. I started trying to actually give other people information about them, writing things as if it was the runes. And I got in a lot of trouble for a few weeks, and eventually I did give up. But I didn't give up in here. And that's me. Just in case you wondered. Now I lied. There was something else coming on.
Believe me, gloves are amazingly warm.
Okay. So, what are the runes? Okay, so first of all we can say yes, they're a writing system. just like the alphabet. They were an alphabet that was put together in Europe, and it was used all across Europe. A writing system, something very mundane, very boring to be honest. But at that time when people didn't write, this was a big thing. You know, people didn't write, it wasn't, and not everyone could read them. So if you could read them or write them, wow, you were something. They were a traditional code, therefore. If not everyone could read them, they could hide messages in symbols. They could put messages on monuments, and only the people that could read would know what they say. So it was a fantastic way for some of the people who were more affluent, in more power, to actually pass on messages for the years, for the ages, because they knew that rocks would never disappear. It's also a divination tool. So yes, we can get runes and we can actually study them in a way, just like tarot. You would actually cast them and you can interpret from them different aspects of the now to move forward into the future, because we know that there's different options in the future. The past is done, the present is now, the now is based on the past. So where do you go from here? That is where the divination comes in, where you can actually have an interpretation so that you can be given some kind of guidance of which way, what's coming, what to consider, things to be aware of. Obviously they are not saying you must do this, this will happen. Everything that you do changes what's going to happen on the next step. Okay? So it's not set in stone in that way. Hidden runes is talismans. So runes of protection. Okay? And these ones are things like bind runes, where you can actually have one rune on top of another, on top of another, and actually have an amulet that you wear or carry it in your bag, put it under your pillow, things like that, for protection. For protection could be health-wise. It could be to invite something to you, fortune. Anything that you wish to bring to you or push away from you, you can actually use runes to encourage that to happen. And it is only to encourage it, because the magic does not come from a piece of wood with carving. You put something into it, which is your intention when you're actually carving, so that you know what that symbol is for, but nobody else does. Hidden code. So it's a mystery as to what they really are, because the word rune actually means mystery. And the reason that it means mystery is because no matter who learns about the runes, it doesn't end. It continues, because there is much more to the runes than just the mundane. And now we have another glass. So, where did the runes come from? Can you see okay over there?
No.
No?
Y'all can come over here. I
You
can
can
move.
move over here. There's plenty of room.
Check this out. I can move.
Okay, so where did they come from? Now, anybody got any ideas where they came from?
Europe. Do I win?
Yes! But
Scandinavia.
specifically, they actually came from Sweden. Originally, they came from the top of Sweden, because that is where the oldest rune stones, similar to this, have been found, a record of them. Now, what they did, the people that actually lived here originally moved throughout Europe, and they moved into different parts, and a lot of them were actually called Vikings. The only reason that they were called Vikings wasn't because of where they came from, it was actually what they were doing. Okay, some people have that misconception about Vikings, and I've actually picked up a couple of things just to, so let's see
Oh, it's a game.
True or false? Yes.
Excited.
Vikings wore helmets with horns on them.
DreamWorks says they do.
What about the one with wings on them? True or false?
Yeah, but that wasn't in the DreamWorks either.
I thought that was just with the Valkyries.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, we've got a question about those in a minute.
Okay.
So no, it's actually false. There is no archaeological evidence anywhere that has ever said that they had horns. They would not be practical in a battle situation.
Right. Absolutely.
And wings, who on earth? You know, so that, unfortunately, not true. This one, true or false? Valhalla was the name for a type of Viking heaven.
True.
True?
Yes.
True.
Everybody? True? Yeah? False. It was actually changed by the Victorians to be pronounced as Valhalla. There was no Valhalla, it was Valhall originally. But the Victorians did love to actually dramatise what happened with the Vikings. So, Vikings travelled in dragon ships. Anyone?
Again, DreamWorks. They don't lie.
It's actually false.
Aw.
Okay, they did have longboats, and they did have, some of them had snakes and other things carved on the prow of the ship, and some of them are absolutely beautiful, but never, archaeologically, they have never found one. Doesn't mean that they didn't have them, but the chances of them having it, pretty dim.
That's a little disappointing.
Yeah. Okay. True or false? The Lord of the Rings. Anyone know the Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yes.
Yay! My hero!
Yeah.
So, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit are actually based on the Norse legends.
I'm gonna
True or
assume.
false? It's true. It is true. Gandalf is actually based on Odin. And you have the light elves, you have the dark elves as the dwarves, and there is a lot of actually Norse legend and myth in the story. The rings, and even the riddling, when Bilbo is actually riddling against Gollum. The way that he does that, about what have I got in my pocket, is exactly the same as Odin did when he was doing a rhyme battle with a giant.
Old school
Yes.
rap battle.
Sorry?
I was making a joke. Old school rap battle.
Oh, well, could be.
Okay, I'm stopping.
That's okay.
So, true or false? These are the last ones, I promise you. Vikings, most of them were really farmers.
True.
I'd like it to be true.
It's true. It is absolutely true. Most of them were farmers. And if they had a bad year and they couldn't get their crops in and they were getting low on supplies, they would have to go and trade. And sometimes, rather than trade, they would get near to a place that was a little bit not very well defended and had lots of goodies, like in the church, and they thought, well, you know what? We're pumped up, we're just going to take it anyway. And that's what happened. They got themselves a very bad name as well. True or false? Valkyries were young and beautiful maidens.
You're warriors.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Anyone?
I thought they were angels.
I'm sure they would love to know that, because originally Valkyries were actually old hags, and they had under their control carrion birds who used to go and pick at the dead. That was the original tales that were actually preserved in Iceland, and they were actually distorted again by the Victorians, who wanted to portray something a bit different. And maybe it's a good job that they did, because it still kept Vikings in culture. It still kept them here. So perhaps it was for a good reason. And as we know, times change and things move on and we adapt. And that's what's happened with the Viking myth.